So welcome everyone. I'm Angela Rosman with my co-host Regina Moore, and today we are talking to Athena Lent, the author of the brand new book, Budgeting for Dummies. Athena is the voice behind Money Smart Latina and is also a writer at Slate. And she's been in the money nerd online community for a very long time and is just a wonderful voice in this space. And when her new book came out, we knew that we needed to have her come and talk to us about it and about budgeting. So for those of you tuning in, if you have specific questions, we can talk about that. And also I figure I will just hand it over to Athena to introduce herself and talk a little bit about what the book talks about as far as budgeting, and we can talk about specific types of stuff as well. And at the end, we will also be giving away a copy of said book.
So two copies.
One copy now, one copy later. So check your emails. So with that, Athena, welcome.
Hi. It's so nice to see everybody. Thank you so much for allowing me to chat. I'm going to play with my light settings so you guys can actually see me. Okay, there I go. I got the little highlight popping up. Okay. All I did was open my window, guys. So thank you so much for all coming. Welcome. My name is Athena Valentine Lent, and as Angela has already shared, I am the voice behind the platform Money Smart Latina, where I specifically like to focus on Latin issues, like financial issues that affect the Latina community. I also focus on budgeting, frugal living, student loans lately. But I've always mainly focused on economic mobility, and that's been something that is so passionate to me. And I was really excited that in May, I was asked to speak at a journalist conference. It's called the 19th Represent Summit. And the 19th is a nonprofit. They're the first nonprofit newsroom that gives services and gives resources, provides it for women and people of color who are in journalism. But I got to speak there, and I actually got to speak after the second gentleman. And I had no idea who the second gentleman is. I thought one of my bosses from my multiple jobs was like, Athena speaking on the stage with the second gentleman, and that's so freaking cool. And I was like, oh, who is this? Like an influencer? So I literally go online and I type in the second gentleman. It was the night before I spoke with him. And I was like, that's Kamala Harris's husband. So if that says anything about how observant I am, there we go. But yes, along with being a freelance money writer, I write at BuzzFeed. I have my own personal finance column now at Slate Magazine. It's called Pay Dirt, where everybody writes in questions, and I try to answer 3 to 4 of them every week. And it's just basic money advice. And then that column, I cover everything from budgeting to estate planning to kids that won't leave the nest to people that won't go get jobs. I get some off the wall questions sometimes, and I've even had to when I write my answer, I'm like, I have no idea. I need to come back to this because it'll be so off the wall sometimes. But yeah, so I grew up with in a lower economic status, and my mom passed away when I was about 15, and it was right around Christmas, and as a result, I was homeless for a few years. Because my family just kind of wanted to use me for the Social Security benefits, so I would just jump between family members. But it was then that I learned how to do budgeting, because I had no choice, right? Because I had a limited amount of money, and I had to go so far, and then I had to figure out creative ways to get more money. So that was my first venture into budgeting. And I've been a nonprofit professional. I was a nonprofit professional for 19 years. And so I worked at various different nonprofits in various different roles. And just because I had to work in I didn't have to work in a nonprofit, but because I did work for a nonprofit and I was a teacher, I really had to hone in on those budgeting skills, because teachers don't make a lot. Nonprofit professionals typically don't make a lot. So it was really just me trying to figure out all the stuff that I could do and how I could make my money stretch on a budget. And so I stopped working nonprofit last year. And about a week after I turned in my 2 weeks notice, I got a letter from Wiley Publishing, and they asked if I would be like willing to, write a book about budgeting for them. And so this process started back in March of 2022, and my book was finally released on May 9th, 2023. So no one can tell you that a book takes like 2 or 3 months. Like, I had to write 400 pages on budgeting, and that took a long time. And then I had to edit it. And then spoiler alert, all the images that you see in this book, I made on Canva. They literally took my images and just put them on the book. So I am also the illustrator.
For people who talk about Canva being a great tool, I
made this on Canva for free.
Yeah. So for anybody who wants to do Canva stuff, like, it's legit. Most of the WPF stuff that we do too is made on Canva. So yeah. we do have the paid plan, which just means that we have access to more templates and photos and stuff. But even the free version is totally usable.
Well, and what I love about it is that you can go, it's actually a great way to make a side hustle. Like, you can go and you can create printables. People love printables, even though they're all on their computer or their phone. People still love printables. I myself included, I work best with paper. So you can go and make printables and put them on Etsy too for like a side hustle. And I've done some of that as well.
Yeah. So can we talk a little bit about, like, you said you started budgeting when you had very little money. And I feel like that doesn't get talked about enough when it comes to budgeting, is that the people that are best at budgeting are the ones that have to, basically. We talk about how low income folks just need, personal finance education or whatever. But a lot of the time, the people that don't make a lot of money are the ones that are actually best with their money, because I have to be. I can blow money on a bunch of different stuff and I can still make it work. But if your budget is super tight, you don't have the money to screw it up. So I feel like the story of getting good at budgeting when you don't have a lot of money is a pretty common one, because you're kind of trial by fire forced to figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, there was one time where I was so low, like I just had no money, that I remember I I made like a new recipe or something and it tasted like crap and I cried, because that was supposed to be like my meals over the next few weeks. And then I was like, oh crap, well, I'm out of money for food. What do I do? Like, that was just kind of like, yeah, that was one of my many budgeting episodes, but yes. So yeah, and so did you want me to go into talking about the 4 different types of budgeting?
Yes, let's start there.
Okay, so believe it or not, you can write 400 pages. We can write 400 pages on the topic of budgeting. If I can do it, you guys can do it too. But one thing that I realized in researching for this book was that there are 4 different budgeting methods that I have written about and I propose in the book. And each has a different benefit, each has a different drawback. And it's kind of just like what works for you versus what doesn't work for you. And some of you be doing a hybrid of different budgeting styles, which is totally okay too. So the first method is probably the one that everyone is really common with. It's called the zero-based budgeting method. And the zero-based budgeting method is where, say you have $200, and every dollar that you have of that $200, that is going to be given a job. So we could say $25 for gas, then I have 175 left. 100 is going to go towards my food. Then I have $75 left. Okay, 25 will go to my favorite Starbucks. Then I have $50 left. And then now that's going to go to my cell phone. So I have, in a sense, literally given all of my $200 a job. So every dollar has a job. You can take this principle and you apply it to your income and your expenses, and you just track your spending very, meticulously. And I probably said that word wrong. I'm always butchering my words. That's how you know that you learned a lot of big words by reading and not talking in conversation. But anyways, so that's basically like the zero-based budgeting method. And
that's where YNAB people are zero-based budgeters. So people
Yes.
who know you need a budget, or ynab.com, this is the zero-based budgeting method. Probably the best known version of that if you're going to use like a system versus just doing it like on your own with a spreadsheet.
Yeah, and another great person that does the zero-based budgeting method is the Budget Mom, Kimiko Love. I do her system, which is a mix between two different budgeting styles that I'll get into. But yeah, she's a great example of someone that does zero-based budgeting. The next example is the 50-30-20 budgeting method. And so this method was originally coined by Elizabeth Warren and her daughter. We all know, well, I don't know if we all know, but Elizabeth Warren is a senator, I think from Maryland. I'm not entirely sure, don't quote me on that, but she is a senator. She has run for president a few times, and she also was one of the founders for the Consumer Bureau of Fraud Protection. And so one of the main reasons that we're able to call our banks and get charges reversed because of fraud is because of her. But anyways, she had created a budgeting method with her daughter, and it was called the 50-30-20 method. And so what that is you break up your income into 50%, 30%, and 20%. And so 50% of your income, if you follow this method, should be your living expenses. So this should be like your gas to get to work, all your bills. It should cover your housing, it should cover your car, it should cover like your car note, like it should cover all of your immediate bills. 30% of your money goes to your wants. So if you want to go have fun, go have a concert, you want to go buy new clothes, you want to go buy a book, you want to make sure you're donating to the Women WPF Woven. That was what you would end up doing with that 30%. The 20% is for savings and taking care of your financial priorities. So this money would be any money that you're saving towards a big purchase, any money you're putting into an emergency fund. And this would also be any excess payments that you would like to make on your debt. I don't refer to debt here per se, because you always have to be making the minimum payments on your debt anyway. So those should go under your 50% of your needs, because that's already a bill that you've been contracted into. But any excess money you want to put on that debt to take care of it, that is how you should do that. So next is the cash envelope budget. And for the cash envelope budget, kind of like zero-based budgeting, but what you do is you make a list of all your budget categories. You make a list of how much money, like you assign a dollar amount to each category envelope that you would like to spend in that category. And then you would go to an ATM to get the exact, you can go into the ATM or you can go to the bank and you would get the cash that you need for all of your envelopes. So it could look like you have an envelope for groceries, you have an envelope for gas, you have an envelope for having fun. And actually, I have some of my envelopes right in here. But yeah, so basically, it would, now these are just some examples. You would have, and I've made all these templates, like they're in my Etsy store. But for example, I had to go visit my nephew for boot camp graduation. So I made a money loop for San Antonio. And every paycheck I got, I would put money in here. And then I would put money aside for gas. I work from home, so this envelope went way down. And then, for example, if I spent money on on something that wasn't, oh my God, I just found a $20, you guys. If you spend money on if you spend money online, this is money that you can use to reimburse it. I just found 20. Okay, that's cool.
So which envelope is it going in?
Yeah, I need to do that again. So yeah, and then once you assign the money on the envelope, that is the money you're going to use in that assigned category. So if I had $100 for groceries, the amount of money I can spend on my groceries is going to be $100. And once that money is out, it's out. You want to try to keep your cash in the assigned envelope as much as possible and not borrow them from each other, because then that way it's the budget isn't serving its purpose, because you're already spending money that you're already doing the opposite of what you should be doing, and that's taking money from other categories when that feeds your budget, right? And so the last budgeting method is something that is commonly referred to as the anti-budgeting method. but I don't like saying anti anything because I'm a positive person. I'm in my Beyonce era, but I will call it the pay yourself first method. And so what the pay yourself first method is that you take care of all of your financial priorities first. So you go ahead and you save that $1,000 in your retirement. You put aside that $500 for your emergency fund. You make sure, you know, all your financial priorities are taken care of. The amount of money that you want to save that month has already been put aside. And then you have the remainder of your money to do whatever you want with, whether it's your needs, whether it's your wants, want to pay off more stuff, like that's completely up to you. And we recommend that you start with 10% of your income being saved or used towards other financial goals that you may have. And so a lot of people, they think this might be too much freedom, so they prefer to like actually save a certain percentage of their income. I actually know a lot of people from being in the personal finance community. There are people that save about 40 or 50% of their income. It's usually a dual income, it's not one person. So, but a lot of them have met that threshold of saving because they do the pay yourself method first. And a lot of other women have also done it as well. And I've seen it a lot very commonly in the WPF Facebook group.
Yep, that is definitely my method. I've always been okay, but I've never been very good at budgeting, and the like anti-budget pay yourself first works way better for me. And I've seen like our financial situation improve significantly when a certain a part of my income, I don't ever see it. It literally doesn't even hit the same bank account. So like when you're like, I'm going to put X amount here, but it goes to your bank account first, it's really easy sometimes to put it to something else. But then if it never shows up, then it's automatically saved. And it's, for me, it's been shocking at how fast accounts can grow when you literally never touch them. So that's my plug for the last of the 4 budgets.
Well, and you know what? I like that too, because I have Capital One banking, of course, so I can take advantage of the Capital One 360 savings accounts. And what I do as well is that if I am saving towards a goal, like a few months ago, I was redecorating my patio, and I would just put 10% of whatever I got paid into that account. But once the money was in that account, I knew like I didn't really like see it because it didn't show up on like my app. You know what I'm saying? Because it's a savings account. So Capital One purposely hides it from you so you don't spend it, which is what I really appreciate with them. Or you can just put your cash in envelopes totally forgot about and then open them up a year later.
I am someone though that like I have found that, some people are like, oh, I spend way less money when it is in cash. I am totally the opposite. As soon as it comes out of my bank account and it's physically cash, it basically doesn't exist in my brain anymore. So I am like free to spend it. So yeah. I think that's where knowing what works for you is so important.
And that's so funny because in my book, in the chapter of the cash envelope budgeting, I don't know what page it is off the top of my head, but when I was researching for this book, I learned about the pain principle. And it's like, I think it's called the pain of pleasure principle, or just the pain principle. But what happens is that for a lot of people, handling cash and giving it away for something is literally painful. Like it hurts them to do it, whether they don't realize it or not. But it literally, because it's making your money tangible. So, if you have this 20 and you spend it on Starbucks, you don't have that 20 anymore. So it really makes you think like, okay, well, do I really need that? Because I'm literally parting with my cold hard cash. And so that was like the most, I don't know, I just thought it was like, I think it's the pain of paying principle. But I just was like so blown away by it. And there's like not a ton of information, but they have published studies and the researches and, and I think too, like, you said cash just flows out of your hand, but with me, if I really need to save a lot of money, I need to do these envelopes because I have my card and there's a rap song where he's like, all I do is swipe. And I'm like, that's me. Like all I'm doing is swiping that, or, pressing okay on my Amazon cart. So it really is like, what works for you. So, but yeah, they have had studies where they said it's painful to part away from your cash, and you don't want to get hurt, so you will hang on to it a good majority of the time.
I'm curious, for those listening live, which camp do you fall in? Is cash painful, or is cash, it's already disappeared, so spend it?
My fiance, like,
curious.
he gets cash like the other day, and like he has bigger bills typically, but like he has cash and he will spend it because it's in his wallet. It's not, so he doesn't put it on his card. And to me, I'm like, I don't really want to give you this money.
I guess I'm also like worried I'm going to like lose it. So there's like the pain principle of like, if I have cash in my hand, then like I put it down or it falls out of my wallet or something, and like I can't get it back.
Yeah, and like that's what, so I follow the budgeting mom, and she mixes shit. I follow her example. I do the zero-based budgeting category to just lay out all my expenses, and then I have envelopes with the label on it, and I put cash in there. But like she always said, like, it's like, maybe you shouldn't be walking around with like $1,000 of cash. Like, that's not safe at all. So kind of just bring along with you the cash you're going to actually need, or maybe like an envelope or 2 envelopes, so you can just use that. So like you're not standing around with all your cash. But also what I thought, but also what I find is, because it's painful to part with my cash, I'm more likely to actually just keep it in an envelope. And then if I like, so what I'll do, because I usually end up with cash because I haven't used it, which is one of the main points of, the cash budget. And what I'll do is I literally will have a goal that I'm saving for. Like, I may already be saving it, but like I had an envelope for Sephora. And so every time I had some extra money, I would put it in my Sephora envelope. And then that way it didn't feel like I was taking out additional money to go blow at Sephora when they had their annual sale. And of course I get only stuff that like I need, like but I will try stuff out here and there, but it's nothing like it used to be in like my 20s when I went off my budgeting path.
Yeah, it's so interesting. In the chat, it seems like we have pretty much a 50-50 split of the people who find cash easy to spend and painful to spend. I wonder if it is generational. I don't know, or maybe the way you're raised, or I don't know. It would be fascinating. We should put a poll on Facebook or on Woven and ask like where people land, because it's such a fascinating thing, which is also why like I love that you started talking about the 4 different budgeting methods, because the reason why there are 4 and then like 50 other like mishmashes of all of them is, I tried to do like a zero-based budgeting so many times, and I would make these pretty budgets with like, I'm going to spend X on food and X on gas and, Y on this other thing. And, I would get this pretty budgeting spreadsheet and then I would never use it. And so it's really important to like know which one is going to work for you, because as much as you may want to be this kind of person, understanding if you're not, you're going to get a lot further ahead.
Just thought I'd add, I'm the cash doesn't exist bucket, because I track everything by looking at credit card transactions. So I don't have an easy way to log that in my own system. So cash doesn't exist.
Okay. And like, I have a spending log. And so every tab in a Google Doc is a spending log, and I have it breaked out by like categories. And I'm not perfect. Like, I'll usually like falter out like halfway through the month or so, but I have it broken up by categories. Like, oh, I went to Target and bought stuff for pets, or I did this. And like, it's just like, I just enter all my transactions in, like, and then I will say too, like, okay, this was on Capital One, or this was on my Wells Fargo, or, I have a MoneyLion account, and this was on my MoneyLion, like stuff like that. So I do know exactly where all the money like sources are coming from. But yeah, I don't sit and just enter like my spending and like already pre-made spreadsheet or like an app or anything. Although, excuse me, a lot of people do have like success with budgeting with different money apps.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. And so then I would say kind of the like flip side of cash envelopes that I do that is also something that works, I feel like, with the anti-budgeting is sinking funds, which I feel like kind of those can fit in any kind of budgeting system. And I feel like I talk about sinking funds a lot, but I feel like they are such a game changer of having money set aside for specific things. I mean, it's kind of like the envelope, but it's more about the big purchases rather, you know, you don't have a sinking fund for food, but you have sinking funds for new tires or, you know, a vet bill or something like that.
And you know what, that is something that I really stressed as well in my book, because you know, a lot of people can't save, and they like spend their emergency fund, or you know, their budget goes wonky because something unexpected happens. So like, you do need a new tire, or if you're like me, your cat goes to the vet 2 weeks ago and you have to spend $700 on him. Like, don't even get
not again, poor cat.
He's about $20,000 at this point. Like, I'm not even kidding you. Like, anyways, that's a totally different woven conversation. But like, you know, if you have sinking funds, how I describe sinking funds is you putting money away for something you know will eventually happen. You know that you will eventually need to go get a new car battery, or get your oil changed, or pay for a tune-up. You know that while your pet is bouncing around being happy and screaming at you, they're going to need to go to the vet. They're going to need a checkup. They're going to need probably shots. Like, you at least need to have like some like $500 or so put away for a pet specifically. Or if you're like me, there's not enough money in the world. But like, you know, your animal's going to go to the vet. You know, your kid's going to go back to school. You know, you're going to have gifts to pay for throughout the year. You know, holidays come around. Like, all that kind of stuff can be in sinking funds, because again, like, you know, it's coming around. So you might as well save for it and put the money aside. So in case something like that does happen, it doesn't screw up your budget. You don't lose momentum, and you're not like, oh my God, see, this is why budgeting never works for me.
Angela, you use that system on Ally. Is it buckets? Is that what it's called now? So for people, like, I'll just chime in because I don't really budget at this point. I'll be honest. I'm covered enough. I track my spending to try and make sure I'm not having anything go crazy, but I don't budget. But yeah, I know but
it's also because I just don't spend money at the end.
I also just don't spend very much money. But like, for me, one of the things, like, I think for people starting off early, that definitely that envelope system works, because it really forces you to pay attention and gives you something tangible. For some of us who are a little further in, I think something that can stop people from the envelope system is knowing that maybe they're missing out on interest or things like that, which is why it's great that some of the banks now, Ally is one of them, others might have it too, they allow that kind of sinking fund setup, or this bucket setup, so you can still have stuff in a savings account, but you can earmark it for those particular things that you're going to use, and then you can kind of get the best of both worlds. So, but Angela uses that, I don't, so she might be able to talk a little bit more about it.
Yeah, same thing with Capital One. You have your banking account, and then you can open up to 30 savings accounts, separate savings accounts, and use those as bucketing. And I currently have 8. And
I think I have like 10 or 12. So yeah. Same.
Yeah, and so you get 4% annually now. The APR right now or the APY for savings accounts is like crazy. So yeah, Capital One, I think Ally might be up to 5% now.
4%.
So if you have a lot of extra cash, make sure you are keeping it in that kind of system. And then always make sure that your whatever financial institution you go with is backed by the FDIC.
Yeah, well, and I would say, even if you don't have a ton of extra money, like, you're still getting, like, even if you only have a couple $100 or $1,000 in a high yield savings account, it's enough to cover, you know, a coffee or two a month. Like, why not, versus leaving it in your brick and mortar and getting like 2 cents. So, you know, the number is bigger as your cash cushion grows, but you know, even when you have a smaller cash cushion, or if you're trying to hit a certain emergency fund number, you can just roll that interest in and get there a little bit faster.
Yeah,
Yep,
$1,000 at 4% is about $3.30 a month. So really that analogy of a coffee, maybe not the fanciest ones, but it is about that much. So it can show you how it starts to add up. And if you wanted to even pull it out, I think it's, you can still see the rewards of what you're doing. And yeah.
It's compound interest, baby. You want to take advantage of that.
Yeah. So if somebody is brand new, starting to figure this stuff out, have very little extra every month, what would you tell somebody, trying to figure out how to save their first $500,000?
Buy my book. No, just kidding. I wouldn't tell someone that. It's $20, and if they don't have any money, I'm not going to tell them to run out and buy this.
Tell them to go to the library and read your book.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, you can
request it.
You can get my book at the library. There's now an audio version of my book. There is a Kindle version of my book. And libraries typically carry all of the For Dummies series, but if they don't have it for whatever reason, because they decided to bump their head and not order it, you can actually ask the library to order it, and you typically will, because if you want to read it, there's at least 10 other people that want to read it, So what I would say, if you are just starting out and you have an audacious goal and you're making enough money to get by, but it's really kind of hard for you to be saving right now, I don't want to sit here and say cut all your subscriptions, because a lot of people who are just getting by don't have those subscriptions, right? So what I will say is that look for ways to gradually cut back, and don't just go ham and cut back all at once. So if you're usually blowing $200 on entertainment, see if this month you can cut it back by $20. If you have groceries at $500, see if you can cut it back by $20. Just start small, right? Because you're not going to go from spending $500 to $200 in 1 month. That's impossible for a lot of people. So if you start with your categories and you gradually cut back, you can use that money that you've gradually cut back and put that into your savings account. And you can always so that was one of my first things. One of my second things is to let's see here. Oh, to cut back, find additional ways to save more money. So for example, let's say I have 200 and I just cut back on 180, and that's my money for Target at the month, because nobody can say I walk out of Target with less than $50 bill, right? Maybe you two can, but not me. But what I also advocate is to sign up for programs and stuff like that will help you save additional money. So for example, I have a Target Red card, so I automatically get 5% off everything in the store. So that is a way that I can cut back my spending. So, I'm not going, I'm not spending $18, I have a $9 discount is what I'm trying to say. So you automatically get 5% off. You can buy a lot of things off of Groupon at a fraction of the price. And it's not even just people events or eating out and stuff. They actually have items, they have AirPods, or they'll have a computer, or they'll have clothes. So jewelry, that's a great place to start as well. You can cut your money back by looking for used items. A lot of people have refurbished items on Facebook Marketplace. I got a chair for $25 that retails for $350. And so I would just look for additional ways that you can cut back. And so say you're able to save an additional $10 that month by grocery shopping, and you've already cut it back by $20. Put $30 aside. The money that you're cutting back on, the money that you didn't spend, put that towards your goals. And then also take advantage of credit. If you do credit card, or you have a bank that does it, always take advantage of stuff like cash back or points. Points, you can go and you can travel with them, but you also can use it for gift cards. And those gift cards you can then use to make your budget go farther. So say you had $100 earmarked for Starbucks, and you got a $30 gift card for Starbucks. then that $30 you got, you would take that and put that into your savings account or towards a financial goal.
One of my sinking fund accounts is actually a like found money account. So something like that, where if I got a discount on something I wasn't expecting, but I was spending the money on it anyway, which I need to get better at doing that recently. I was real good for a while, but basically like if something was on sale for an extra $3 off, but I was going to buy it anyway, then I would buy the thing per normal, and then I would transfer $3 to that like found savings account. So just sometimes gamifying and like finding the small dollars can really make a difference. When I was paying off my student loans were at 8.5%, and I had calculated that the like daily interest, and it was really motivating for me to find like the just like couple of dollars here and there, because it actually made a difference. And now I feel like I need to get back to that found savings bit of when something is less than I was expecting, I need to make sure that that money actually gets put aside as savings and not get spent as something else.
This is
Girl,
such a
me
classic
too, me
Angela
too.
money game of how Angela thinks about money. Whereas like if it's not on sale, like then I probably just won't buy it.
But if it's something like milk that you buy anyway, you're just gonna wait and then like freeze it when it's on sale and
Yeah,
not
that
buy
might be a
more.
little bit different. It's just I do like hearing people's different strategies and like games and how they set stuff up, because I would have never thought about that. I didn't know you did that either. I don't think you've ever
Yeah.
actually shared that.
I've done that. And you can do cheese. You can also freeze cheese.
Oh, I meant her like
Oh.
putting aside like $2 or $3 in savings.
Oh, I thought we were talking about freezing milk. I was like, you can also freeze cheese.
Oh yeah, you can freeze a lot of stuff.
Oh, I
It's
freeze
great.
cheese. I have like the bricks of Tillamook cheese in my freezer. I do.
Well, that's also because you live so far away from a grocery store that you have to stock up when, you know, you're not at the really expensive local one. So for somebody who isn't as new to budgeting or has more money, but also spends more money, would your advice be different?
I don't think it would be, but I would, like, if you're already spending money and like making it rain everywhere, I would take it an extra step, and I would actually sit and think more about your purchases and like why you're buying them. So like, I think that's what I would do. Like if you're spending a lot of money, but you're not saving it, I would start tracking my purchases and I would see why I'm buying them. So for example, when I was younger, I had very crooked teeth and I had braces for 3.5 years. So hopefully we fixed the problem. But I had really crooked teeth. And so for the longest time, I would spend a lot of money on eye makeup from like MAC, because I wanted people to look at my eyes and not my mouth. Like I was doing it to distract it. And so I didn't have that revelation until like after I had already gotten my braces, and that's when I cut back on wearing makeup. But I was like, wow, I was spending all that money on makeup that I could have actually been saving to put towards braces and actually dealing with the root of the issue that I'm trying to cover up. And so I think that is also a great start for people to kind of look at, you know, if you're spending like a ton of money on groceries, why are you doing that? Like, are you doing it because you maybe are covering other people to feed them? Or are you doing it because, you know, you have like a food scarcity like thing going on? I think that is also like really important to sit and think about if you're like spending a ton of money. I remember I was, you can tell, so I have bipolar disorder, and you can tell when I'm manic because I'll spend money on home decor and I'll be up to like 2 or 3 a.m. like moving furniture. And so if I go and I like notice like I'm having like an Amazon package delivered every freaking day, like why am I buying all this stuff? Like what am I doing? How am I thinking this can make me feel better? What can I actually do instead to make me feel better? I probably should call the psych. I probably shouldn't be blowing $500 on a dresser. I probably need to be calling a psychiatrist, but like stuff like that.
I feel like that's almost like the overarching advice of like, what can I do to feel better that doesn't involve just spending money on all the things? Like,
I'm
that's
not even,
a common
not
one.
even gonna lie. I was having, because I'm just coming out now of like a manic depressive episode and I have new medication. But I started having anxiety and like ruminations last night. So I literally made a list on a Post-it of all the things I could do for the evening to keep busy. So I stayed off the internet or stuff like that.
I know one thing that works for a lot of people too, if you're trying to cut back or like refocus, Athena, like you said, that you will find yourself going shopping online, is just doing those like challenges for yourself for a month, like cutting out a certain thing for 30 days. And then maybe if that's going well, maybe you extend it and then you end up with Angela on a clothes buying ban 20 years later or whatever number
What is
she's
it,
at
4
now.
years or 5?
6.5 almost. Yeah.
I mean, she gets a lot of gifts. This is also
do.
just subtle trick has turned into then everybody gifts you those things. So she does have some new clothes because I sent her socks.
Yeah, well, it's also like people that I've become known as the person who doesn't buy clothes. So if somebody is, gathering up a bunch of stuff out of their closet to take to the thrift store, they're like, hey, Angela, you want to look through this first? And they'll just like dump all their stuff to me. And then I get to go through it first. And then I will take it to the thrift store for them.
That's how I got the majority of my professional clothes. My friend lived 2 doors down from me and she was a manager of like a high-end shoe store. So she always had to buy like stuff to look high-end and fancy, right? And so she couldn't wear stuff a lot. Like it was like you wear it like a couple of times and then you can't wear it anymore because you're supposed to like portray this like image. And so every month she'd have a trash bag. She'd like, here's some stuff. And we were the same size. And like, I literally would go through it and there was so much and I would take it to 2 of my other friends that were the same size. And between them, they would take it. And then whatever was left, one friend would go and donate to hospice. So that's.
And I find those kinds of like systems too, this is a slight veer off the budget topic, but if you're somebody who has a problem with accumulating things and you're trying to get rid of them, because I think for me, sometimes like having a whole bunch of clothes, it's easy to keep adding clothes to the closet if it's full. If I make a dedicated effort to kind of pare down, it keeps me focused on that I'm trying to stay pared down. But I have a problem getting rid of things. I'm a little bit of a hoarder. But if I have people who I know can use those things, I'm much more inclined to give it to them. And those kind of like giving train type things work really well. I don't want to just throw things away, but I'm happy to see them get used. And then like little plug for Woven, we do have the Trading Post platform on there. We'd love to see more people, if you've got like high quality things that you want to sell for super cheap or just see moved on because you're having trouble getting rid of it.
Yeah, it's brand new, Athena. We should probably send out an email to let people know it's there.
I got Ray-Bans. I've been set up by 2 people on Facebook Marketplace. I have Michael Kors wallets. I have like a lot of skincare. Like, come shop my closet. Okay.
We'd love to see people doing more of that. Like, whoever the receiver is should offer to pay shipping for those things. But like a lot of people have high quality stuff they're happy to give to somebody in need. It's just hard to find people who like are out there saying, I want to take stuff, which is a whole other conversation about people not wanting to look like they're needy or whatever. And we can maybe do another Zoom on that conversation. But the back to like the gamifying thing for me, I don't do like challenges, but like I love to see kind of how much I can cut out and still be happy. And then my game just changes to starting to enjoy watching the money stack up. And when compound interest starts to work for you, that becomes its own game. So I get a lot more satisfaction out of doing that than those smaller purchases. And that's like a, trajectory that you have to be on. But I think if you can switch your mindset, instead of like, when you're trying to budget, instead of thinking about that you're denying yourself of something, it's more of like an effort in seeing like how little can you use and still enjoy life, can sometimes be a good mindset shift.
So we are getting to the end of the hour. So I want to give away a book specifically for the people who are here live. We will also be doing one via email. So if you do not win this copy, we will also send one out to be fair to the folks that wanted to attend. We had quite a few people being like, oh, I'm so glad there's a recording because I want to watch it, but I have XYZ thing, including
Cool
the
templates.
dentist.
Cool
Yeah.
templates and charts all made by me in Canva. This too could be yours.
So I am going to just do a random number generator based on, I'm just going to count people down from the top.
So nobody leave for the next 3 minutes, so you don't mess up our count.
And it is Chandra who is the winner of this book. So if you can just send us an email at hello@womenspersonalfinance.org, we will get you a copy of Budgeting for Dummies sent to you. And then
All I'm gonna do is hang out with my cat anyway, so I am here.
yeah, and you are in the Women's Personal Finance Facebook group, and if we can get you on Woven more often, you know, if people have questions later, I think you're pretty easy to find.
Oh yeah.
So thank you again for joining us today. This was wonderful, and thanks everyone for joining us live, and this will go up online soon.
Thank you, Athena. Congrats on the book.
Of course, anytime. I'm always here for you guys. I love you guys, so I'm always here.
Thank you. I will stop the